Welcome to The Deep Dive, a special podcast edition of The Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir. I'm going to take you into new territory in your hoops journey with the best of the best in basketball experience, expertise, and analysis. The Deep Dive is brought to you by the Hoop City 3x3 Basketball Festival, featuring the top Olympic men's and women's FIBA 3x3 teams from across the world competing in the beautiful Ice Palace in West Edmonton Mall, July 31st to August 3rd. Go to 3x3ba.ca for your tournament information. Now let's take the deep dive. Welcome to this special deep dive edition of the Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir, and today I am, thrilled is the only word I can come up with, to be joined by Chris Broussard. Chris is one of the big personalities in the coverage of basketball in the United States. He is the host of First Things First on Fox Sports 1. He has been the host of, or certainly a guest commentator on all of the major basketball shows, both on radio and television, over the internet, over the last decades. And Chris is also the president and founder of the King Movement, and he joins me today from New York City. Chris, thanks so much for making time to be with me today, and welcome to Canada.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Paul. It's great to be on. I'm looking forward to talking some hoops. And shout out to all the Canadians out there.
There's a ton of them, and there's a lot of them in the NBA right now, and they're making more noise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're about to have the MVP. You're about to have the MVP.
That's right. Steve Nash, 2 MVPs, soon to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander following in his footsteps after a remarkable year. So, yeah, Canadians they're making some noise, that's for sure. So
absolutely.
Let's jump first of all to the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets in their playoffs. And by the way, Chris, before I do that, I think this is an exceptionally interesting and intriguing first round. Not all of the matchups, of course, are even, but man, there are some series right now that you just typically don't see in the first round, do you?
It's been phenomenal, and we all knew that the West was tight, right? Now, nobody's surprised that Oklahoma City swept Memphis, but outside of that, those top 7 teams, from 2 to 7, everyone observing the league knew that these teams are evenly matched. So I don't think, even though people may be surprised that the Lakers are down 3-1, nobody's stunned because we know the talent in Minnesota. We know they got to the conference finals last year. And so that's a 7 or a 3 beating a 6, or a 6 beating a 3, I'm sorry. And it's not a shocker. Then you got Golden State, a 7 up 3-1 on a 2 in Houston. That's a lot of experience. And as you said, we're going to get into this discussion of this series. And then, of course, the 4-5, you always expect the teams to be evenly matched. And boy, are they, with the Clippers and the Nuggets. It's been a fantastic series. Clippers certainly missed out on an opportunity to take control of that series, and now Denver's got the home court again. So it's been a fantastic first round, especially in the West.
Certainly has. We'll stick with the plan. I'm tempted to jump over to Denver right away, but we'll stick with the plan. Golden State and Houston. I thought what we saw last night was there was remarkable drama within the tough, hard-nosed play that went on the court, Chris. Jimmy Butler, my goodness, when you talk about the nickname, Playoff Jimmy, was that ever on display last night? You talk about toughness. Coming in after the injury he sustained, being as tough as he was, down the stretch. I mean, Steph Curry was, for the first time in the playoffs thus far, human last night. He wasn't the Steph Curry that can will a victory on his own. But Jimmy Butler came in and down the stretch was just so effective physically and mentally. I think that was the genius trade of all of the controversy that went on this year. And when you look at what the Warriors have accomplished since Jimmy Butler came, I thought that was all manifested last night. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Butler is, as you said, playoff Jimmy. He's one of the toughest guys in the league, both mentally and physically. And look at what he did in Miami. Getting a team that did not have a great roster to the finals twice. All right, beat Giannis in Milwaukee, beat Tatum and Brown in Boston, and got to the finals and simply was just overmatched by the Nuggets and the Lakers in those two trips. But now you put him with the great Steph Curry and one of the greatest defenders we've seen in Draymond Green, and a group of shooters and an excellent coach in Steve Kerr. And what we're seeing is the result of that. And so last night, as you said, toughness on display mentally, playing with that injury to his hip. And it looked like he got aggravated a couple of times last night, but he still played through it and then comes up with the game-clinching rebound with 7-footer Steven Adams standing right there. Golden State had been dominated on the glass, and Butler gets that rebound to clinch the game. That really says it all.
I think it does too. And when you look at the replay of that rebound, the vertical leap that Butler made to gather that rebound over one of the great rebounders in the NBA, Steven Adams, it was incredible. And I think that's the thing, like to your point, which is really well stated. Jimmy Butler willed Miami, who had no business being in the NBA Finals, twice, beating a former NBA champ and a future NBA champion in Milwaukee and Boston to get there. It's just remarkable. And then last night, like I said, he had a night when he had to step up, injured as he was, because Steph Curry was average for Steph Curry by his standards. And you also touched on one other thing, how great Steve Kerr is as a coach. I think he's one of the great coaches in the league, in the history of the league, really. I think he unleashed Steph Curry and changed the course of basketball as it is. But he does creative things within a game that I don't see most NBA coaches, as great as they are, as accomplished as they are. But I think he makes adjustments other NBA coaches don't make.
Well, he is a fantastic coach. There's no doubt about it. And look, when he got to Golden State, Mark Jackson had done a great job before him, laid a foundation, particularly defensively. But what Kerr did was took that offense and, as you said, Steph Curry, to a level that no one expected. I remember being with P.J. Carlesimo, the former NBA and college coach. We were on TV on ESPN talking about that Warriors team heading into training camp, and we both felt like, look, they've got everything they need. They had David Lee. They had Draymond Green coming off the bench at that time. They had Steph and Clay. Like, they had all the positions you felt they needed. They had size with Andrew Bogut, but it was like they're just not good enough to get past the second round in the West. It's just as simple as that. And what Kerr did with that offense took them to the next level. And what he did, because under Mark Jackson, when they would get their 50 wins, they ran the same, essentially a very similar offense to most teams in the league, where they had Steph Curry running the point guard, running the high pick and roll. And Steph's numbers were great. He was 24 points, 8 assists a game, his highest ever as far as assists, and he made all-star teams. But Kerr put Steph off the ball, ran him off screens, got all the whole team with more player and ball movement, and that opened up a world of basketball that we didn't think we'd ever see. It really changed it to where the cliche, as you know, used to be jump shooting teams don't win championships. And now it's actually the opposite. And that's all due, or some of it, a lot of it, to Steve Kerr and what he did with that offense. Of course, he had the two greatest shooters are two of the greatest and the greatest shooting backcourt ever in Steph and Clay. And as you said, now for him to maneuver, I mean, what he's doing with Jonathan Kuminga, not playing him when Butler's available, having to massage that situation. They don't have size. He's got to massage that. He's getting production out of Quentin Post, who was a second-round draft pick, and having him bring Steven Adams out away from the basket. As you said, Kerr is a fantastic coach.
You know, he really is. And, I mean, we could talk about this for about 3 hours, but one of the things that I think is part of Kerr's genius, well, two real quick points. Allowing Curry to be outrageous, that's number one. No other coach up to that point would have, I think, been able to do that. But number two, he ran a lot of actions for both Kerr and Thompson that got them shots in the mid-range. And I swear, the mid-range is what is ignored so much in the NBA because of the nerds in the analytics basements with their compute. You know, I have all these the ideas, Chris, of these guys sitting in their basements with the doors locked and all these tapes going on and screens going, analyzing data. And
never played a lick.
No, my gosh, no. They're eating Subway sandwiches and they're just, you know, analyzing reports, but he would run effective actions for the mid-range, which opened up more from the 3-point line than if you just keep running things to try to get guys 3-point shots.
I'm glad you brought that up because, and I love the 3-point shot and kind of what it's done for the game. But the sad part is that it has taken away the mid-range.
Yes.
But when you look, like coaches now at all levels in America, from youth to the NBA, are telling players, we only want 3-pointers or shots in the paint or free throws. The mid-range is anathema. There are games where teams might take 3 or 4 mid-range shots, and that's it, and sometimes fewer than that. But if you look back at the history, as you said, the team that started the jump shooting and 3-point revolution, the Warriors, when they were first winning those championships, they were a heavy mid-range team.
Absolutely.
Steph and Clay shot a lot of mid-range jumpers as well as threes. And then Kevin Durant joins, and he's a mid-range assassin. And then you go further. Kawhi Leonard, the only thing that's held him back is injuries. He is a mid-range guy. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, about to win the MVP, a mid-range guy. Like the mid and beyond it being just an effective shot and part of basketball, the great thing today, if you're a mid-range shooter, is teams, they want you to take that shot. So I'm not saying they're giving it to you, but they want to run you off the 3-point line. They want to keep you out of the paint. So the one shot that that gets the least resistance, I'll say, is the mid-range jump shot. So another one is Jamal Murray with Denver, mid-range assassin. When they won that championship, he was killing people in the mid-range. Denver doesn't shoot a lot of threes. So, yeah, look, if we continue the trend in the NBA of just more and more and more 3-point shots, they're going to have to change the rules to bring more balance. And I think what they should do is cut off that corner 3. Cut off the 3-pointer at the free throw line extended or just below it or whatever. And then that would bring back the mid-range, the post play, and still have 3-point shots.
Well, you are preaching to the choir, my friend, because I'm the same exact way. And I think you highlighted it perfectly when you point out the success that elite players are having with the mid-range shot. I mean, how much more proof do you need of how important the mid-range is than to look at the seasons that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is having? Like, he's a good 3-point shooter, not a great 3-point shooter, but he's so crafty and able to mix things up that he's impossible to guard most of the time.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm talking with Chris Broussard, the host of Fox Sports 1, joining me today from New York City here on the special deep dive edition of the basketball show. Now, Chris, I know you have limited time, but I have to touch on Denver and the Clippers. You know what? With Jokic, it's like he can't not make an assist. I'm going to use the double negative there. He throws up that ridiculous shot that ends up being this unbelievable game winner. I mean, talk about resurrecting Jimmy Valvano and the North Carolina State victory over Houston, But Aaron Gordon's response was just incredible. What a moment. And when you talk about saving the series, man, if the LA Clippers lose this series, which I don't think they will personally, but if they lose this series, you're going to look at that play and just scratch your head and say, how in the world did that happen?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And I'm with you. I've got the Clippers in 7. That was my pick going into the series. But, yeah, I mean, look, Denver is fully alive now. And, Russell Westbrook is hurt. Michael Porter Jr. is playing through injury. So they're banged up. But now they have home court advantage. Obviously, they've got the best player in the series in Nikola Jokic. And they've got the momentum. They were all but done. Had they lost that game, they would obviously be down 3-1. But they also would have dropped a 20-point lead. So their spirit would have been done, and I think the Clippers would have closed them out in 5 or 6. Now they have full life. So, it's going to be an interesting, next 2 or 3 games. This has been one of the best series of a great first round. And, when you mention Jokic, because you hear a lot of players, or not players, but fans, say things like Larry Bird couldn't have been as good today and this and that. And I say to all the people, the youngsters out there, if you want to know what Larry Bird, why he was so good, what made him so good, look at Nikola Jokic. Because he is a 7-foot version of Larry Bird. Can't run fast, can't jump very high, but just an intelligent player, a skilled player, a crafty player, and a competitive player who's able to overcome his physical limitations because of those things. And Jokic is just phenomenal, and it's just great to see.
I love the Larry Bird comparison because, number one, it's accurate, and number two, everybody has limitations as a basketball player, whether they're physical, mental, training, fundamental, whatever the limitations are, it's how you mold your strengths in with your limitations to make yourself a complete basketball player. And both Bird and Jokic are exactly that. Now, Chris, before...
Yeah, and what Jokic is remember Scottie Pippen kind of popularized the phrase point forward. Paul Pressey was before him in Milwaukee, but it was kind of Pippen. I mean, Nikola Jokic is a point center.
Yes, he is.
That is a new position as far as I'm concerned. Point center. And if you look at it, he is not the only one. The international players have now brought this position to the league. Alperen Şengün in Houston, to some degree, a point center. Domantas Sabonis in Sacramento, a point center. Those 3 guys, and you could even throw in Giannis to some degree in Milwaukee, they all are the primary playmakers for their team, in addition to being, 7 feet tall, rebounding, scoring, and all of that. So there's a little revolution going on in the game of basketball thanks to these guys.
Well, thanks to these guys, and the one common thread that ties all of those names together is they're all international players, Chris. And I would love to have the opportunity at another time to talk about the development system in North America compared to how other players are being developed around the globe, because I think there's a discussion, and I know it's going on in the NBA right now with their thoughts of Europe, etc. But I'd love to have that conversation. Now, I know you got to go, but I have to. This is something that I really wanted to get your opinion and your take on. Is the video review system that the NBA now has having the desired outcome? Because as we went through the different matchups that are going on in the first round, and you look at not just the fact, the one video review that I think is totally is why the video review has to be in place, and that's, did Aaron Gordon get the shot off before the buzzer, the dunk off before the buzzer? out of bounds lines, etc. But man, when you start changing fouls, like LeBron's foul, that or the ball going off Ant in the waning seconds of that very close 1-point game at the time on the baseline, and you get a challenge, and it reverses it through micro-analysis of LeBron's hand hitting Ant's wrist first, changing it from out of bounds to L.A. down 1 to 2 free throws for Ant. And then on the reverse side, Hardaway Jr. clearly getting fouled at the buzzer and not having a chance to shoot free throws. What are we getting the desired result, or are we just making it a more painful process to watch an NBA game now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, first of all, what you want, the desired result is that you get the calls right.
Right, of course.
As much as you can, that you get the calls right. And so that being the case, I don't mind the situation with LeBron and Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, they got it right?
Yes.
But the problem is that every play isn't reviewable.
Right.
And so the Hardaway, they clearly got the Hardaway call wrong.
The NBA came out and said we got it wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And right there said it, yes. And so, I'd rather you not even say anything. That probably makes
Absolutely.
the feel even worse, right? So that's the problem. Now, but here's the thing, and I know you know this. You can't review every single play or call, because then the game takes too long and you destroy the rhythm of the game and everything. So that is where the challenge comes in, figuring out what is reviewable, what isn't. In hindsight, we all wish, I think, that they could have just reversed that call on the Hardaway shot, because, again, it was a clear foul. Tim Hardaway Jr. is an 81% foul shooter for his career, shot 85% this season. He's at the line now with 0.3 of a second left, with 3 chances to make 2 free throws to win the game. He probably does that, and now it's 2-2 Detroit, New York, rather than 3-1 in the Pistons facing elimination. So that is a tough pill to swallow. But that is where the inconsistencies of the video review come in, and it's just unfortunate.
That's the perfect word. Unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we're seeing all of these reversals. I mean, my gosh, when you look at the Golden State game last night, there were three real interesting challenges in there that changed the initial call. And to your point, yeah. I totally agree, Chris. They got it right. That's important. You want it to get it right, but man, when you get wrong like that, that's where it hurts. They still have a lot of figuring to do. And by the way, I love your idea on the 3-point shot. I think that is a fantastic idea, and I think it's inevitable. And I think maybe then we'll get the analytics guys out of the back rooms and get the game back on the court the way it should be. Right.
What I always say, look, analytics is a part of the equation. It is not the entire equation. And as you said it, and you kind of comically described, the stereotype of these analytics guys, I get why they go 100% on analytics, because that's all they know.
100%.
They can't fall back on when I played the game, or what it was like in the locker room, or what it was like to be on the court and compete like that. And that is important because it shows itself in other ways. An analytics-driven general manager, or let's say a totally analytics-driven general manager, he won't take into account things like chemistry, players fitting together, personalities, the human elements. He will just look at the numbers, and that will leave something to be desired. And that's why a lot of times it doesn't work out with those analytically driven situations. So it has a benefit. Nobody's trying to throw it out completely, but it shouldn't be the final say on how all these teams are put together.
100%.
And how the game is played.
100%. And we know through the course of the NBA history that trends take hold and everybody jumps on one bandwagon and then jumps on another, whether it was drafting European players, drafting kids out of high school, all of those things.
Yep.
Everybody just rushes to the middle on that. But I totally agree with you. It's an important part, but you can't analytic Jimmy Butler's efforts last night. That defies analytics. Chemistry defies analytics. Chris, I know you've got to go. This has been such a pleasure. I certainly hope we can do this again one time. I've been speaking with Chris Broussard. He's the host of First Things First on Fox Sports 1, founder and president of the King Movement, and just an overall great basketball analyst. And it's been a real honor and pleasure to be able to speak with you today, Chris.
Paul, I enjoyed it, and I look forward to being on again sometime.
Same here. Chris Broussard joining us on this special deep dive edition of The Basketball Show. Thank you for joining me for this special edition of The Basketball Show's Deep Dive. You can listen to The Basketball Show live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon Mountain Time on Sports 1440 in Edmonton and sports1440.ca all across Canada. Our podcasts are available on all of your favorite podcast providers. Watch for my blog, 3 from Deep, on my website, 3x3ba.ca. The Deep Dive has been brought to you by the Hoop City 3x3 Basketball Festival, July 31st to August 3rd in the Ice Palace in West Edmonton Mall. I'm your host, Paul Sir. Have a great week on and off the court.